I just got a massive score at Goodwill. It was like somebody watched my last video, saw me struggling with markers, and helped me out. So appreciate that. Friends, I want to do something different with today's video. I want to talk very directly to fascists and about fascism, because I think we have hit a moment with the Epstein file releases, with the clarity that is now available to the reality that our entire system is constructed by some of the worst, most horrific people who have been utilizing it and bent it to their wills so that they could protect themselves from their crimes, from consequences, from the community. But before I go too far, let me introduce myself to the new people here. I'm AJ, I'm a cybersecurity professional and a motorcycle instructor, and I've been basically a full-time activist for the last 5 months. I got one of the gayest motorcycle crews around, and I like to keep those people safe. So that's what got me involved in all this. That's how I got here. And I think a lot of normal people are getting activated because the same thing is happening to them. They're realizing politics comes for you. Eventually, you don't get to just sit back and watch the world spin by and get better. It's going to get worse unless we all dig in. And that's what I'm here to help everyone do. So yeah, the major goal of this video is to provide an opportunity to talk directly to people who are in fascist cults. If you are in Patriot Front, if you are in neo-Nazi groups, if you are in Adam Waffen or whatever, there's a million of these fucking things now. If you're a Nick Fuentes follower, whatever. I want to help you deconstruct out of those beliefs, because those beliefs are not good for you. They are not going to create a good life. They are actually only going to lead to your death, either by your own hand or the hands of somebody else. And if you're not a fascist, I hope to give you more information about fascism, about how fascists think, where they come from, as well as some ways to communicate to those people as well as other people about fascism, because I think that's one of the biggest breakdowns and why we're here right now. Fascism is a problem for all of us. You know, it has created a lot of these interlocking crises. It is creating violence in our streets. And that is why there's going to be a lot of accountability for this coming out. And I really want to help the people that might be in these white supremacist groups realize that. I want you to avoid the worst accountability that's coming, because if you get out now, you might be able to have a semblance of a normal life. But if you don't, the longer you go down these roads, the more likely you are to crash out very, very hard. I want to deconstruct this stuff because you do have a choice. We all have a choice. As much as it's hard to transition, you know, I transitioned when I got divorced a couple years ago, and it was very difficult to leave that life. And my life is nothing like what it was 4 years ago. I have a totally different set of friends, and it was, yeah, I've been through some hard times, but it's better out the other side. And I care a lot about this because so many of the friends I'm surrounded with today, so many of the amazing people who do this mutual aid work, some of the best, most capable people came from these groups. They came out of religious cults. They came out of abusive domestic environments, like parents that were just terrible to them. And we can unlearn these things. You can get better. We can all break the cycle together. So let us start, as we always must, in this anti-fascist movement by focusing on the tip of the spear, Minneapolis, Minnesota, where although they are saying, indicating, you know, signaling, we're drawing that down, we're going to back up, we're out of there, y'all. Yeah, the reporting on the ground says basically none of that. So yeah, they've removed like a couple hundred ICE agents supposedly, but what's mostly changed is the tactics they are using. They are getting even more surreptitious. They are getting even more manipulative. So for example, instead of having cars filled with masked agents, they might have a single dark-skinned female in a car doing recon who will then report to those giant cars of masked agents.
We continue to see them use a range of different disguises, getting reports in of them dressed up as school observers, USPS drivers, FedEx drivers, Uber and Lyft drivers, photos of them. Potentially, we have a photo of a potential agent dressed as a firefighter leaving the Whipple Federal Building, as well as a number of cases of them dressed up as utility workers now. And if you are aware of the situation that happened the other day over on Humboldt Avenue, They basically pretended to have a broken down car in order to lure people out of their houses and then brought in additional agents to do an abduction.
At 11 minutes after 1 last Thursday afternoon, a car pulls up in front of Jesus Flores' home in Brooklyn Center. About a minute later, 2 women get out and raise the hood, and shortly after get Jesus to come out to take a look. And all of it was a ruse.
Like, they lied to my dad that they needed help with his car. I mean, they figured out that he was a mechanic. You know, my dad's a generous guy. He's willing to help anybody.
Within minutes, you see 3 SUVs pull in and take Jesus into custody.
This is drawing attention to the need to be able to interact with these people in order to confirm whether or not they are ICE. And the good news is I really don't think you're going to struggle with that. And we'll talk about that later with my Patriot Front interaction. They also seem to be staging more equipment and building out permanent facilities there to run a longer operation. And that is something that people in Minneapolis should be concerned about, but it is also something that all of us should be concerned about, because despite all of the horrific realities of what ICE is doing, all of the detention centers and concentration camps they are building out, the scandals of this administration, they are full speed ahead on this ideological project to destroy these communities. I am seeing reports of thousands of people facing eviction and food insecurity. And this is really a question of where the fuck the government is at in all of this, the local government. They could be raising funds. They could be doing taxes. They could be doing a lot of shit. They could be asking for help from other states, for example, because we might need to start doing like interstate compacts to support each other, given the fact that this administration is ideologically targeting specific communities, blue states and not red states.
So to my fellow white people, if you're one of them who took a deep sigh of relief after Tom Homan and Governor Walz said Operation Metro Surge was over, you guys have some work to do. You really do. Okay, because first of all, politicians, they lie. They always lie. And these Democrats did less than you did to protect your neighbors. They're still doing less than you did to protect your neighbors, because where's that eviction moratorium? Right.
This is a big lesson. I hope people outside of Minneapolis are learning and seeing is just how much their state and city government is just not meeting the moment at all. The entire strategy seems like strongly worded letters and pounding fists on a fucking table. That's why we need to get far more direct with our city officials as far as what we expect them to do and finding out if they're going to fall the fuck down just like Minneapolis will. You want to figure that out before they get into your community. That's why I attended a city council meeting, because one of my local community members just made a phone call and said, hey, what are y'all doing about ICE? And they basically said, what the fuck are you talking about? And hung up on her. So I had to show up to be the consequence for their lack of desire to listen to the broader community. And I'm going to keep making those meetings more and more painful until something is fucking done.
That was everyone signed up this evening.
Okay, so this is the last call before we close public comment. Did we miss anyone?
I'm AJ Randall. I've been a Shoreline resident for about 10 years. In 2017, a King County detective drew a gun on me. You can just Google motorcycle cop gun and you will find it. It has led me to not trust the police, and I don't think any of our community should trust the police either. So if we're going to protect ourselves, if we're going to protect this community from ICE, we need to be very direct about what we expect from law enforcement. We need them to be helping us at a minimum know what is going on in this community. Who is getting taken? What are their names? I pay taxes here. I expect customer service from my civil servants. As everyone else here, I think, communicated, this is an unprecedented moment. I'm not afraid. I'm angry. I'm incredibly angry to hear people that have been impacted, to have your neighbors taken from you. That is horrific. I personally ride Aurora constantly looking for these people because there is no other solution. Nobody is doing anything else. And for some reason, it feels like people are asleep at the wheel. This was very much predictable. Very predictable if you're paying attention. Being connected to the trans community means that I do not have the luxury of not understanding what is happening here. I've known it and seen it from the moment Trump walked back in the door and he started attacking trans people, the people in my community, my partner, my best friends. So I ask you to take this incredibly seriously and understand this is not going away. They're not going to be done, and these proposals that we're offering are extremely milquetoast. So this is really a starting point for us to begin protecting our community, and I hope that you're committed to protecting it as much as I am. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
So that's the doom and gloom. But the positive is that the Trump administration and MAGA in general have taken a massive fucking L right here. This is the equivalent to a full backpedal. And what is important to understand is that they didn't fucking lose to hardened Antifa super soldiers. They lost to normal, everyday people. This is the reality we should have all learned from the Afghanistan war. The US military, its training, its tactics, the people are totally incapable and unprepared of defeating a guerrilla-style warfare. These people didn't even really pick up guns, and they were able to defeat the most armed, the most well-funded, the most theoretically they could be well-trained. They're obviously not, though, because these are trash people who are only interested in doing a racist mission. And that's not how you're going to get the best people, because fascism doesn't create smart, intelligent people, as we're going to talk about. Trump and this regime's power is just totally cratering, and we are seeing the power of decentralized, autonomous organizing. Organizing not done by a trained vanguard, but just by normal people who have existed in a capitalist society and built up skills and give a shit about each other and want to do the work, who are willing to put themselves at risk. And I am seeing that too in my local rapid response. We have gone from people who are scared and afraid to actually planning out really effective mutual aid items and how we're going to take the next steps towards protecting our communities, doing rapid response, keeping people housed and fed. No thanks to our city government. This is what I would really be afraid of in this MAGA category, and it's why these shitheads are showing up to things like school walkouts, because they are so angry and afraid that they're fucking losing the entire culture war, and that at the end of all of this, there's going to be consequences. The fact that normal people got together and organized to defeat this hyper-violent secret police from the Trump regime should be terrifying to any MAGA or fascist, and it should really cause them to step back and reflect and realize that they are missing something. They don't understand. They have been confused. And every day, some people do. Some people are leaving that regime. That's why the support is tanking. But some people are doubling down.
Make America great! No fear, no hate! Immigrants make America great! Fucking touch my shit! Ever! Listen to the young girl!
Some of these really unhinged provocateurs now are going to these student walkouts and they are harassing kids or even physically attacking kids. Grown men attacking children. Students, schools, and teachers need to be on guard in the future here, because that seems to be where their focus is now, and it may be in the future, because again, they cannot fucking stand the fact that other people learn shit that demonstrates that they're fucking wrong. I haven't had breakfast yet. I think I'm gonna eat something. All right, so the first thing I want to do is just kind of flesh out an overview of fascism, what it looks like, what it feels like, and kind of the cycle that it has that we've seen many times. A key factor of fascism is the desire to dominate. That is how you solve conflict. If you're building coalition, it's to group up in order to dominate another people, to force your will onto them. They assert their dominance through violence. It's not about building coalition. If you're having a nonviolent resolution with a fascist, it's because you surrendered what they wanted. It's not about collaboration. It's not about empathizing and coming and understanding another person's mode of being, the difficulties they have, the challenges that make it hard to come to your side to give you what you want. They just want to take it. If you don't give them what they want, they're not going to look to collaborate with you to find a middle ground. They're going to look to take what they can by hook or by crook. That is why you will hear the right wing talk about toxic empathy, because empathy is a barrier to making you a more violent, aggressive person.
Bill Clinton in the 1990s, it was all about empathy and sympathy. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that it does a lot of damage.
And that's why militarism is glorified under fascism, is because they need to create violent people who are willing to assert their dominance. It's about creating a hierarchy for people to rise so that they can get in the position of being able to dominate other people. And, you know, the thing about militarism is who fights and dies in wars? Well, it's not the rich people. It's not the people at the top doing the dominance. It's the people below. It's the grunts that are handed a fucking gun and said, get out there. Great job. Try not to die too fast. The goal is really to get you to seek a violent death. And that is why, look up Dave Grossman, the creator of Killology or whatever, all these psychological training programs for our U.S. military. They don't create healthy people who can have normal relationships. And it creates a lot of problems when those people leave those military environments and are being expected to, operate with some sort of level of empathy with their fellow human being and community member. To justify these dominance hierarchies that put specific people on top, you got to give people a reason to believe that they are better than others. And so to do that, they reach to a mythologized past, a fake, totally pseudoscientific or just straight up, it's just literally fabrications. It's stories they tell themselves to justify the violence that they want to be doing to people. This is where the different groups can kind of separate on their focus, but at the same time, they will almost always intermix every one of these things to various levels. Like Nick Fuentes' fascism is based on white people and Latinos being superior to black and Jewish people. And it's tied into his Christianity. But Charlie Kirk's was different because his version of Christian nationalism took the Jews and kicked out the blacks and the brown people. And you've got people like Patriot Front just talking about heritage Americans and shit, where if you're part of this first founding colonies, then you're in, but only if you can prove it. And it's all bullshit. Again, don't try to make sense of it. That's the mistake that I made for a long time and why I was really late to calling things fascism that were clearly fascist, because I spent a lot of time really trying to make this make sense. And it's because it's very clear that it's designed to support whatever the people on top want and just sacrifice all the pawns underneath. The end goal is just to create a in and an out group. And right now, the biggest in and out groups are the in group are white people and men and Christians. And the out groups are queer people and people of color, and women are really on the fucking chopping block right now. God help you if you're all three. And the out group fulfills a very important function of being the pressure release valve for all of the failures and the corruption and the problems of society are just simply blamed on an amorphous out group that can change and shift and just keep people angry and emotionally invested in that war, in that battle. It always goes back to fascism. You gotta be at war. You gotta be attacking at all times. You can never stop. You can never slow down. But the reality is this way of thinking doesn't fucking function. It does not create a stable society. It only destabilizes society. It slowly destroys everything. And eventually, material conditions, the reality, how much money is available, what physical objects are available, police operating, abducting people, who is around you, who is living and dying. This happens, and none of this mythology and bullshit can overcome that reality for people. So they start to figure it out. And then as society collapses, that is when the suppression is ramped down. And suppression can happen via physical, kinetic, attacks like what is happening in Minneapolis. But most of it is a mental attack. It is propaganda. It is misinformation designed to make you either stutter, not know what to do, or just sit at home in fear. The suppression tactics only work for so long, and they have to keep getting ramped up because as long as the fascists are in charge, material conditions are going to keep degrading. And as much as people want to, I'm just going to hold back. I got to save my money for my kids' college. Okay, well, I can't afford that kid's college. At least I can send one of them to college. Oh shit, I lost my job. Fuck, I can't afford my house. If fascism comes for you eventually, which is why it's critically important to fight back early. Don't wait until you are on the back foot. By focusing their targeting on the outgroup, they're able to convince people that, hey, it's going to be okay. We're going to keep going. We're going to get to the things we're promising. You're allowed to kind of like suspend disbelief at the reality of what you are seeing in front of you. Historically, propaganda and misinformation and fear just work really, really well. But the difference this time is we have way better lines of communication. People are much smarter. We have the ability to adapt faster. As the collapse proceeds, more and more institutions are abandoned by people who no longer believe in them. ICE, for example, people just want that to be totally abolished. And then the Democratic Party, we are seeing that our resistance party to that is totally insufficient for our needs. And that is the positive part, is that leads to new organizations, new configurations, new ideas that rise and begin to fill the gap, the needs of people. And that is what we all right now need to be involved actively in doing. Otherwise, the future that comes out the other end isn't going to be the one we want. It's going to be the one that the powerful people who have already been doing this and enabling this, it's going to continue to be that version until we take over. Fascism isn't for the normal people. Fascism is for the powerful. Fascist leaders do not respect or care about the people at the bottom doing that work, regardless of how much they will gas them up, give them money, and support them. Their actual safety and happiness is totally irrelevant to the leaders. Fascist leaders know what they're doing is dangerous and puts their followers at risks, and they don't care. That's why you'll never see a fascist leader lead by example. Trump was not on the front lines of January 6th. He fucking did his little press conference and then he went up in a room and just watched the whole fucking thing on Twitter. American fascism exists to protect the horrific crimes of the Epstein class. They invented an entire transphobic psychosis in the media in order to divert from their crimes. That is how far these people are willing to go. And again, the soft forms of power using news and media and information is more effective in mass than violence, but they are more than happy to do the violence, to actually have you do the violence, to be clear. They're not going to do the violence. Again, they're cowards. The people out there right now that are still wearing MAGA hats with Trump stickers on the back and waving that stupid fucking Trump 28 flag, they're protecting the worst people in our society, the tech fascists who are looking to enslave us so that they can instate themselves as king. Wealthy pedophiles like Epstein and fucking Trump and all the people he surrounded himself with and all the other tech billionaire people, Bill Gates, and then the people who are just currying their favor like Tim Apple and fucking Jeff Bezos so they can do their little fucking projects, and Elon Musk, who is a central figure in totally degenerating the goodwill between the average Americans. They are totally protected by this system, and the day-to-day, all of us, we're the ones being chewed up by it. All right, that's page one and done. Now, I'm very familiar with the techniques and strategies fascists use, not just from my research, but because growing up as a white man in society, I can see the small ways that we are nudged into these ideologies, as well as the people who overtly dog whistle and try to pull us in. I've talked about my experience working at Best Buy, where I did a lot of different sales trainings, and truly the techniques and methods that these people use is the same. The first and most important thing to understand, because it can save us a lot of time by helping us realize we need to not listen to fascists or consume their propaganda, because they are just insane liars. They will lie about everything all the time. They will just assume they don't get caught. If they do get caught, they will use other techniques and methods to try to get themselves out of the jam they put themselves in. And they have no problems manipulating people, either utilizing their insecurities or the ways they're vulnerable. You know, if somebody needs money, often you are forced into situations you don't want to be doing. I've talked to a lot of sex workers. Some of them enjoy it. Many of them do not, but did it to survive, especially with trans people. When they do talk about a real event or something, they will frame it in a very selective way. Again, not including other perspectives, not trying to give you a complete picture of reality, but specifically to take you down the path that gets you to agree and do what they want you to be doing. Because before they can get you to start doing what they want, they need to build your trust that they are somebody you should be listening to, that they either know the way or they're willing to bring you up with them. But once you're actually in, once you're behind the curtain and you're in the group, what they're going to encourage is this very lazy, selfish, shallow thinking. That is where, again, the rejection of empathy comes from. Don't think about other people's perspectives. Don't listen even to what other people have to say. If somebody is telling you something that I didn't tell you, the guy you trust and you know, that person's a bad person. They're trying to steer you wrong. They slowly teach you to stop listening to yourself, to your insides, your own mind, your own heart, your own morals and ethics. They'll have you turn your back on fucking everything. Again, they don't care about you at all. They don't care about the consequences you experience in your personal life. If you have to leave and get rejected by your family, they are happy to have you do that just so you will come live on their white supremacist compound, because then you are really deep. This is what makes it really hard to pull people out, because once you have abandoned your own critical thinking to take the opinion of another, it's difficult to rebuild that. And so to support the lack of critical thinking, they give you rules for your life. Follow this. This is exactly what a man does. This is exactly what a good Christian does. This is exactly how you get to good business. Like, it's all fucking rule sets. And they will enforce those rules through violence, through chastising, through any method that they want. Some of these groups where you are involved in truly like violent, horrific things, I mean, they might kill you. And that's why, bigger picture, these fascists try to destroy alternative systems, or at least destroy your desire to seek them out and join them. Why do you think the media only calls somebody an anarchist when they're doing something violent? Why do you think that people who haven't so much as read a paragraph from an actual communist or anarchist are out here screaming about that being the biggest threat to the foundations of our country? It's about pulling you along with emotion, reducing your ability to think for yourself so that you can be a drone in their violent army to give them their violent means. The ways they do this are insidious. Again, this entire Epstein class has been at the top of our society. They have been nudging every single system we have in a direction that best does this and creates these types of people. That is our entertainment system, which just spits out bullshit, military, propaganda slop. It is our education system. If you want something fun, if you want to just totally lose faith in it, just Google, how are textbooks assigned? Who creates them? Who chooses what goes into them? Good luck. And the media, of course, which is totally captured by the powerful, it really expects powerful people, having them on their program, to bring an audience there. It's totally enmeshed. All the incentives are fucked. And that's why we all need to be investing in alternative information systems. You need to be finding the Instagram accounts and the small people on YouTube, and not TikTok anymore. Fuck TikTok. Get off fucking TikTok. But Blue Sky and Matrix and podcasts, going back to older forms of information or media distribution is the way. Zines, local book fairs, that is how you can get the good information that's relevant to you and your community. And that's why it's important for anybody who has been part of these fascist cults to forgive themselves once they realize that they have been misinformed, that they've been drawn into this horrific system. JD Vance and all these idiots talk about apologizing for being white or whatever. I've never once in my life apologized for being fucking white or had anybody ask me to do that. And I run in the wokest fucking circles you will ever find. It's really just about apologizing to your victims, the way that you victimized other people. And I think the best way to do that is through action. At a basic level, that should look like is not re-victimizing people in the same ways you've been victimizing people in the past. Communities that help with deprogramming, like my Discord server, which I'm going to shut down here soon because of the changes, there's not a lot of these communities, and we're going to need a lot more, or we're going to need a lot more people who are open to the idea of helping other people get out of these cults. So just before the Minneapolis ICE invasion, I had my first direct interaction with white supremacist groups in the streets of my community. That's what led me to start making a video exposing this group, its terrible, violent history, and its ties to wealthy neo-Nazis, not just in my area, but throughout the country. But after Operation Metro Surge happened, I decided that I needed to change my content in order to meet the moment better. So instead of finishing that video and doing all the production I was gonna do with that, I'm gonna insert that relevant section right here. So let me set the stage here. This was back in December, maybe 2 months ago. I had just dropped off a bunch of donations for flood-impacted victims down in Auburn apartment complex. So it's Saturday the 20th, and I'm down here at the Coppers Gate apartment complex, which is one of the big ones that was flooded massively in this last week. And what you'll kind of see is that right now, this is kind of like a restoration cleanup project. So I was just dropping off some supplies like N95 masks and gloves, things that people need in order to be able to clean up safely in these conditions. In all my organizing and actions I have ever done, and despite it being the primary concern of other activists and organizers around me, I had never ever run into one of these paramilitary white supremacist groups before. So I really didn't expect to see them on a random winter day in an area that I ride all the time. I'd never really mentally walked through the steps of what I would do if that ever did happen. Well, here's what I did. So after I rode past them the first time, I was kind of dumbstruck and had to go back and confirm that this was in fact Patriot Front in my community. This group got on my radar after the first No Kings protest when I had gotten reports that they had been bannering this exact overpass.
What you boys doing here? What y'all boys about? Yeah, is that you? Is that you boys? This you? Yeah, okay, alright. I know you boys ain't from around here. Why are you in my hood? Go do this at your own Nazi house, motherfuckers.
After confirming that, yep, these are in fact white supremacists, I moved into recon mode, looking to gather as much information about them and their operation as possible. I put 2 and 2 together, realizing that the cars that were just down the street in a spot I had never seen vehicles parked ever were probably there. So I went to go make sure I captured the make, model, and license plate.
Are those your cars that you got here? Down there? Okay.
Now this isn't as clear in the video, but one of the cars had a very distinct Texas sticker indicating that these were definitely one of their personal vehicles. After gathering intel about the cars and what they were doing, I figured it was time to go ask them a couple of questions, and I really didn't expect the basic shit to stump them as hard as it did.
What's the sign say? What's the sign say?
Reclaim America from Donald Trump.
Oh. Why?
Because we believe he's bad, man. It's just
why do you think he's bad?
Sorry?
Why do you think he's bad?
Because what do you mean?
What do you like about him? Just give me.
Are you a conservative?
I'm a man.
Why do you have a problem with us, my friend?
I don't know. Y'all are in white masks and shit. It's weird.
How is it weird?
Why is it weird? Because you look like Patriot Front dudes. Let's see.
The banner didn't say Reclaim America from Donald Trump. It said Reclaim America. And if you Google those words, you're going to find there's really only one hit. See, a primary goal of these bannering actions is to be a sales funnel into their cult of racism. And the first step is to build a line of communication directly to you, not through an intermediary, someone like me who understands what these people are about and will cut through the bullshit for you. And if you go to these websites and it looks stupid and cringe to you, realize you're probably not in the target demographic. The content is designed to appeal to disaffected men who are already sympathetic to their racist worldview. Men who maybe just didn't realize that there were groups like this in their area that they could be joining. After doing that basic recon, I contacted some friends and asked if anybody was free to hang out for just a little bit. Recon's great if you can't do anything else, but every moment that bannering action was going on, they were potentially intimidating people in our community that are targets of their racist cause, or bringing more people into their bigoted black hole. So you really want to shut that shit down if you can. I was low on gas at the time, so I figured I'd head down the street and fill up, then ride by and get a good look at that sign they were bannering.
Hey.
I like your sticker.
Yeah, which one?
Fuck eyes.
By the time I got back up to the hill here, a friend of mine had showed up and done a couple of passes in their big old black truck. So by the time we rolled back down together, the Patriot boys had decided that it was time for them to pack up and head home.
I got their vehicle plates and shit.
Now I wanted to make sure these boys didn't get lost on their way home, so I decided I would just follow them down the highway and make sure that they found their exit. I also wanted to make sure these boys knew I was wise to their little fucking games. And I find the simplest way to do that is to just point to the little sticker on my helmet here and make sure that they get a nice good look. Now, to be honest, I thought these boys were gonna send me on a wild goose chase somewhere, but I'm pretty confident they just drove me right home because the car had a Toyota of Renton frame around it, and Renton is definitely the exit we got off on. These guys aren't exactly operational security geniuses. As they say, the Nazis aren't sending their best. With all the information about these dudes gathered, I headed home. When I showed other friends and activists, they were all kind of worried that I might have been putting myself in danger by engaging with these people. And interacting with these people could be risky if, let's say, you are part of a demographic that is the target for their hate. But I am part of the demographic that is the target of their recruitment. In my almost 40 years as a man on this earth, I have been in many, many different circles where there are racist, bigoted men speaking quite openly about the things they believe. Racism has always been a big component of outlaw motorcycle groups who I consider to be far more dangerous than these Patriot Front LARPing motherfuckers. In my experience, as much as these dudes want to project strength, the reality is they're just immature man-children. I don't fear men like that because I am the fucking Ubermensch that they wish they were. Now, if you're more liberal-minded, you might be thinking, hey, Jay, that's a pretty harsh way to talk about some people who didn't do anything violent to hurt you or anybody else. They were just bannering. It was peaceful. And of course they didn't do anything to me. I'm a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white man, but this isn't the interaction they have with everybody. This is an act designed to appeal to people who have a more liberal persuasion. Because when they're not doing this benign bannering action, this group has beaten people. They have defaced public murals, and they have tried to divert blame for their actions onto other groups like Antifa. And they've gotten away with it for years because they are propped up by literal Nazis. All right, let's go back now and look at the deadly racist beginnings that brought Patriot Front into existence in the first place. Thanks, AJ, for the on-the-ground reporting. Let's now go over a short history on Patriot Front. Before 2017, they were known as Vanguard America. Then, at the infamous Unite the Right rally in Charlotte, Virginia, one of their members drove a Dodge Challenger into the back of the march, hitting several people, injuring many severely, and killing Heather Heyer.
Go, 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 go.
in the panicked aftermath, trying to distance themselves from this act of violence, a guy by the name of Thomas Rousseau took over the Vanguard America Discord and rebranded the whole thing as Patriot Front, declaring that absolutely nothing was changing other than the name and graphics. Since that point, they have been well known for going around the country defacing murals dedicated to queer rights, racial justice, like they did for Arthur Ashe, and by doing these flash march style actions in order to provide viral content as their primary recruitment tool, as well as give them opportunities to do randomized street violence like they did to Charles Morrell.
But it's a phenomenon that happens at all these white nationalist rallies. A bunch of men get together and they can't log on to Grindr all of a sudden.
For my entire life, I have not taken white supremacist groups like Patriot Front seriously because I hadn't personally seen signs of them in my community, and obviously they don't generally target me. But then last year, right around Christmas time, I went down to a gun range in Olympia, Washington, and found this card. And then last June, I saw reporting that two men in Lacey, Washington, maybe 50 miles from my house, they'd stockpiled over 30 firearms, ammunition, night vision goggles, flashbangs, body armor, and they had a massive amount of Nazi paraphernalia. And in reading those articles, I came to the realization that this was their card. They had been to that exact gun range and placed it there with the hopes of recruiting people into the race war that they intend to start. This was my wake-up call to the reality that conflict was inevitable with these groups, and I needed to start taking it extremely seriously. I just finished reading a book called To Catch a Fascist by Christopher Matthias. Highly recommended. It's a history lesson and exploration into the rise of the far right in America, but through the lens of anti-fascist groups that work to expose them. This book made me realize that as I've shifted more of my energy to doing mutual aid and community defense, I've fallen into doing the same types of work that anti-fascists have been doing for decades. And with that realization, I've decided that I'm going to lean in. So I want to speak very openly and plainly to these members of Patriot Front, as well as anyone else who is part of a similar cult extremist group. Although I'm doing the anti-fascist work of publishing these men's faces, vehicles, and license plates for others to do correlation, I am not going to go further into trying to dig into who these people's identities are. That is, assuming that I never, ever run across them again. You know, as I've talked about on this channel a bunch of times, I know what it's like to have a significant lapse in judgment, which could have sent my entire life down a very different, far worse path. But I was fortunate enough not to experience those consequences. And I know that those are the moments that can be great motivators for triggering significant change inside of people, the way that they triggered that change in me. So I want to say directly that if you are one of the people in these groups and you've made it this far in the video, I am willing to move past this event and potentially anything else you have done in your past. If you abandon this hateful, self-destructive, world-ending ideology right now. Because after this moment, after this video releases, I'm not going to be that generous with any more of these people. The next time I come across a group like this, I'm going to use it as an opportunity to hone my cybersecurity skills by finding everything I can about these people and bringing that information to the public to continue the anti-fascist tradition. The thing is, most people doing serious anti-fascist work are desperate to protect their identities for many valid reasons, but that becomes a vulnerability that fascists try to exploit as well. But after Charlie Kirk's death, when the right wing decided that it was totally fine to dox and harass anyone who said anything negative about this administration publicly, I voluntarily abandoned anonymity when I confronted the fascist propagandist, Cam Higbee.
I mean, this is.
Why don't you show the sign? He's crashing out like this because I have a sign that says nobody should be killed with their opinion.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, I tripped.
Touch my stuff.
I tripped. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna mace me?
Yeah.
Please,
Back
mace.
the
Please,
back
mace. Cam Higbee's about to mace me.
Don't touch my shit. Back.
I tripped. Oh my God.
You didn't.
I handed them my information on a silver platter and said, do your worst. And their worst was getting me fired from a shitty Fortune 500 company who didn't give a fuck about me or any other employees. But all that really did was give me way more time to pay attention to what is going on in this world, to research, to study up, to think, and to expose this entire system of both the right-wing propagandists and the entire corrupt pedophile oligarchy that pays them to do their work. Oh, I'm sorry. Some of them are just rapists and sex traffickers. I would hate to besmirch anyone's good name by connecting them with a pedophile. The only immigrants in the Epstein files are horrible people like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. And the only trans person is a victim. And yeah, this type of work exposes me to more risk, but it also gives me the unique opportunity to appeal to the humanity that remains in every person who falls down one of these extremist rabbit holes. And to demonstrate just how serious I am about this, I am gonna drop my signal right here. And if you are in one of these groups and you wanna get out, but you don't know how, you can reach out to me privately and securely, and I will do my best to guide you through that process. The truth is that you're probably gonna need to find local community support, but I can maybe assist with that and possibly even find you someone to trust in your area as a starting point. There will be lots of skepticism towards your reform, but I will take you as sincere until you demonstrate that you are being dishonest with me. I've had people try to fool me in the past. It's never been effective. And I'm just gonna ignore anyone who tries to fuck with me and waste my time. I've gotten hundreds of death threats since Cam Higbee is constantly reposting that fucking video of me just making him look like the smallest bitch of a man that he is. Either show up to my fucking house or shut the fuck up. Washington's a stand your ground state, motherfucker.
It's afraid.
I believe that there is still a non-violent way to defeat the Trump regime and American fascism, but it's gonna require a lot of people, especially white men, to speak out against fascism and speak up for the equality of trans people, immigrants, people of color, women, and the disabled. If you think this work is important and want to help me continue it, like, subscribe, most importantly, share it in as many places with as many people who need to hear this shit as possible. You can also directly contribute financially by dropping me a tip on Ko-fi, Venmo, PayPal, or becoming a member of my YouTube or Patreon. I just added a new tier for bonus content that I simply don't have time to make into a full video or even a short. And this month, I've got an over hour-long video that's going to be exclusively for that tier. And just to tease it in the future, I am actively working on personally recording an audiobook for something that I'm reading that I couldn't find the audio version for. So if you want to hear my sweet, sexy, sultry voice, that's coming. But that's going to be like 10 plus hours of reading into a microphone and producing that. So that's what you're paying for. This operation is very much running in the red right now, although I almost made enough last month to cover all the stickers I bought. I'm like 20% of the way towards covering all the normal costs of everyday life, so I'm funding all of this with my savings that I made from my douchey tech bro job. But either way, I am all in on this project, and I'm going to keep doing it as long as I can. So until next time, never forget that a better world is possible. So ride fast and take chances.